Um, but with WrestleMania 24, you had some ideas for the Ric Flair Shawn Michaels match. Is that right?
Yeah, well, at WrestleMania 23, when Steve Austin was participating as the referee for that match, he after that weekend floated to Vince. I know Rick's probably going to be retiring soon, or he's getting up there. I don't know what your plans are to send him off, but he pitched this idea where basically Rick would ultimately lose at WrestleMania, and it'd be one of these things where he'd be fighting the odds and having to win every match, and if he lost, that would be the end of his career and would culminate at WrestleMania. He had just a broad idea, and I wasn't friends with Austin at this time, and so Vince loved the idea, said we're doing it. And Raw at this time, there was a Raw and SmackDown, had different creative teams. It was a brand split, and told Brian Gewirtz, get with it. Let's do this. Map it out. I want to see it. So this is March, April of 2007. Nothing happens. He sits on it. By late June, Vince's like, well, where's that story at? I want to see it. Nothing. And so he gets upset, and I get assigned the story, even though I was on the SmackDown writing team. So I map it out, and not being able to have access to Steve Austin to pick his brain at the time, which was frustrating, but just map it out like, well, what is this concept? We know where it's going, we know how it's ending, but how do we get there? And I thought there's no better farewell tour than to celebrate his career. And so I wanted to sprinkle in moments from his life, his career in the business, and almost build these pay-per-views like chapters, celebrating and revisiting his rivalries and his past as we went on the road to WrestleMania 24. And along the way, he was also going to have confrontations with young talent, and they'd be able to get the rub by working him and having these fresh, one-of-a-kind matches, because then these matches weren't done every week. You just had the opportunity, because it was a brand split, so you had some opportunity to play with this. And ultimately, I don't remember all the details right now, but I remember one thing we were going to do is have a Survivor Series match and bring back the Horsemen against Ric Flair's greatest rivals. And that was going to be Ricky Steamboat, Mick Foley. I don't remember the third man, but I do remember the man that we were going to bring in, and Ted DiBiase, who was close friends with him at the time, even floated it to him, was Sting. And having Sting come in then when he was with TNA, or I think his contract was just about freed up, and he was thinking of renewing. I think he did year to year almost at that point, and ultimately he decided to stay with TNA. But he was considering, Ted was really pushing hard because they went back to even the Mid-South days together, and they were involved with religious affairs together. So it was very close. I mean, he was pushing for him to come in, and that would have been maybe part of his introduction at the time, but it didn't happen. And at the end of the day, I think they did a different story that was it was a briefer story. With Mr. McMahon coming out there and basically saying, laying down the gauntlet. And I don't think you got as much mileage out of it as you could have. Forget my story. There's probably other people that could have done great stories that would have blown away my stories and my pitch. But I think you could have had a year-long push like Austin had envisioned, and it would have been a very compelling TV with high stakes. And again, celebrating this career and having, maybe it was Dusty was the fourth guy. I think it might have been Dusty. But it would have been, I think you would have been able to capture some magic. And on the Horseman side, I think it was going to be Flair, Malenko, Barry, and I don't remember the other guy that was going to be the fourth Horseman that could still go. But in the end, they went in a different direction, and it doesn't matter because I think the last impression that we were going to have, regardless of the story, was Rick and Shawn, and that match holds up to this day. It's a fantastic match and a very emotional match. It's too bad that he went on to TNA, but I understand his desires to pursue wrestling after that. But that to me is when Ric Flair's in-ring career ended. I thought it was a magical match.
Yeah,